Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the on-track series video for the Chinese Tier 10 tank destroyer, the WZ-113G. Now, this is a tank line that received a reforge about a year ago. I think it was September of last year. And actually, yeah, if you want to check on whether a line has been reforged or buffed or nerfed, etc., etc., I asked for somewhere on the website to have a page where you could view all the reforges and all their articles, and thankfully Wargaming listened, and there is actually a tank reforge index now within the game guide section of the website. So I'm going to leave a link in the description to that, and thankfully Wargaming listened and made it easier for everyone to be able to find, you know, all the reforges and all the information about anything that's been buffed, which is really helpful because obviously they've done a lot of reforges now. They've done like 9 or 10, and there's a hell of a lot of buffs and stuff for tanks that have gone through all that sort of thing, and it was a right pain to find them. But now, thankfully, since they listened, you can now go find those articles, and as I say, just follow the link in the description, you'll find the index. But yeah, September of last year, this tank line got a reforge. They only really buffed the tier 8, 9 and 10, but really they were the only tanks that needed it because the tier 6, 7 and tier 5, 6 and 7, sorry, are pretty decent. And you come to the first tank in the line in this first replay, and that is the 60 GFT. It's a pretty tasty little tank. It's got a pretty damn nice gun, in the fact that it gets like 145 pen and 220 on its heat with 180 alpha, with a really good reload at tier 5, which is nice. It is a big box, but it does have like semi-decent camo for a tank destroyer. And yeah, if you get yourselves into a good position to snipe and get a good position to keep the gun working, you're going to have a great time with it. And you can have a lot of fun with this little tier 5 tank destroyer, because you can just wreck people before they realise it. So in terms of a crew, I run Rapid Reload, Born Leader, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, and Muffled Shot. All the camo perks because, and by the way, I use this crew for the first 3 tanks in the line. So I use this for the 60 GFT, the WZ-131 GFT, and the T-34-2 GFT. So I use the same crew for the tier 5, 6, and 7. And yeah, you want all the camo perks because these tanks can get pretty stealthy. This one isn't quite as stealthy as the tier 6 and 7, but it's nice to have it at tier 5 because camo rating really, really counts a lot at tier 5 where the view ranges are really damn low. And then the gun perks like Steady Aim and Run and Gun because, well, it's nice to be able to fire 10% more accurate on the move. It also helps the gun bloom, you know, so when you're moving and you stop, the gun bloom is a little bit better when you have that because you obviously 10% more accurate on the move, so it doesn't bloom out as much when you're moving. And then, yeah, 10% on the Steady Aim as well to make your gun just 10% more accurate, which is always nice for a tank destroyer, right? And then in terms of equipment, I run Rammer, Optics, and Camo Net. Rammer because, well, 10% better DPM, always nice for a tank that's got a really fast-firing gun like this. Optics to make sure you're not blind because you don't have the best view range in the universe because you are a tier 5 TD, but you can get up to like 390 meters view range, well, just over 400 meters view range with situational awareness and all that. And a camo net to make, obviously, the camo better. So yeah, this first tank, the 60 GFT, like I say, it's a pretty decent little tier 5 tank destroyer. It's got no armour, but it's got a pretty voracious gun. So if you get yourselves in a good position to snipe from, and you have a target-rich environment, you're going to have a good time. And so far this game, we managed to get 1800 damage with 427 assistance from our little snipey hill that we had. And now we're moving in. This light tank is going in on this bathtub, and this bathtub has the 105mm gun. Now, I can survive a shot from the bathtub, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take it. It is a fellow pleb, and you know what? You can have the damage, because I know I can survive the shot from him, and because of how quickly this gun reloads, I always know I'm going to out-reload that guy. Now, we get very, very lucky, however, that we ricocheted the shot from the captured KV-1. We're very lucky that happened, and then finally we get unspotted. We load heat, because from this angle, we're going to struggle with our AP, and we're just going to throw the shot straight through his upper plate. And we finish the game with 2.4k damage and 427 assistance. Finished with the epic victory, the 6 kills, 2.4k damage, 427 assistance, ace tanker, sniper, top gun, high caliber, 1715 base XP. A really nice game for the tier 5 Chinese tank destroyer, and yeah, this tank is a pretty solid start to the tank destroyer line. It sort of shows you how you're going to have to play for these first couple of tanks. Because obviously, naturally, with this tank line, you go from really stealthy tanks with pretty decent guns to all of a sudden you get to higher alpha guns and no stealth at all, and you get more armor. Which is something that they helped a little bit with some of the tanks on the Reforgers. Can't quite remember until we get to the tanks, and you'll see what they got buffed in. But especially the Tier 10, I know the Tier 10 got a little bit of help in that regard, and it helped them be a bit more aggressive and stuff like that. But yeah, we're on to the Tier 6, and this is the WZ-113G FT. And on the WZ-113G FT, I use the same equipment setup and crew setup. I was about to say camo setup. Crew setup as on the Tier 5. So we've got rammer, optics, and camo net for this tank, because this tank does have absolutely dirty camo, and it also has an absolutely fantastic gun with a blistering rate of fire again. So you've got 181 pen on this standard round, you've got 241 pen on the APCR round for 250 alpha at tier 6, and you reload pretty quickly, which is, well, for 250 alpha at tier 6, I mean a 6-second reload is pretty solid, and obviously you can get that faster with the food boost when you activate it. But like I say, you also have absolutely dirty camo. If you put on camo net and have the crew skills and that, you get it down to about 189 meters of still concealment, which is completely dirty. And again, at tier 6, where you're facing tier 5s and things, where the view ranges are very, very limited, they're gonna struggle to spot you if you put yourself in the right position and use concealment correctly. And with this gun, you're gonna just out DPM them, farm them, and have a great time. So we're on Himmelsdorf in this game, in the WZ-131 GFT, which isn't the perfect natural habitat of this tank, because naturally it's a city map, and it can be a little bit brawly. It is encounter, and we've won the hill, which is nice. Their team basically hasn't bothered with the hill, and our team has just stormed straight over it. We're taking this position here because, again, these guys are going to struggle to hit us, and, well, not struggle to hit us, but struggle to spot us from this position with that camo, and we are managing to get some nice shots into these ISUs and the Churchill game carrier. We're just trying to get another shot into the game carrier, but can't quite get it. Probably should have waited for the opportunity to get a shot in the ISU 152K, but to be honest, I actually didn't expect the 152K to keep going, so it just sort of caught me out a little bit. I thought he might stop since he was spotted. We do take a blind fire at that corner there, though, at D3, sorry, because people do like to sit there and shoot up at the hill, because it is a very good position to shoot up at the hill and counter fire, but there was no one there. So we're witnessing what's going on, right? Our team has gone the other way, well, it's gone down the hill, and they're flanking the enemy that way, but the enemy's also flanking us, so they're coming up behind us. There's this light tank here against this guy, and I'm like, hey, they changed Himmelsdorf, right? Can I get down here? Well, I'm going to try and get a shot at this T-50-2, which we do. We set him on fire, and look, we may lose 100 hit points, but we can slide right off. And it's like, yeah, I remember they changed that. They changed that when there was that bug where you could get actually straight underneath Himmelsdorf. So they actually flattened that bit out so you could slide down it. Naturally, you do lose a bit of hit points, but it is what it is. And yeah, we've lost 100 hit points, which is sad. But we managed to get the shot into the T-52 and set him on fire and that. And now we're getting some shots into this Churchill game carrier. Now, unfortunately, we end up tracking him, but not penning him with the second shot. Bad play, really. We should have aimed for the lower plate, because by aiming for the lower plate, we would have killed him. But we went for the drive wheel. Well, to be honest, I thought I'd be able to pen and track the Churchill game carrier, because I think that's what I did with the first shot. But it is what it is. Right here, we have a brown trousers moment. And fortunately, he misses. We drove straight out in front of the ISU 152K. And it was like, oh, God. And fortunately, he missed. Because naturally, he can just one-tap. I mean, even without the 100 hit points for falling off that slippery slope, he could still one-shot us. But right again, we know that ISU 152K had fired, so we used our DPM advantage against the big high alpha TD to shut him down. These guys have gone and destroyed everyone that was towards their cap, and we're just trying to get shots at these guys. This is a really awkward situation. Because naturally, like I say, I can put one shot into these guys for 250. But they can just drive around and blap me and one-shot me. Which is not something we want. I was thinking of going after that IC-152K who had fired, but there was the other IC-152K who could see me. Fortunately, that other IC-152K did catch me out, but he couldn't quite see me through the window because it was a bit awkward with his gun depression and with his height. And now this other ISU-152K is coming for me. And it's like, well, I do have friends, but again, I don't want to die at this point. He is coming. I'll try and track him on his outside drive wheel so that he would get tracked and stopped in his tracks, really, you know. And unfortunately, we didn't track him, but we did pen him, and he got destroyed. So we finished the game with 2 kills, 2.8k damage. The ace tanker, 1760 base XP. A really nice game for the WZ-113G FT in unfamiliar territory, really, for it, and not a great map for it, and really bad matchmaking for it in how many tier 8s there were. But fortunately, there was quite a lot of tier 8 turretless tank destroyers, so we all had the awkward issue of having no turret, so it made it a little bit easier in that way. But yeah, the tier 6 TD, again, the tier 6 TD is a pretty solid little tier 6 TD. It's a lot of fun to play if you use the camo right in the blistering rate of fire for the 250 alpha at tier 6. You're going to have a good time, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it. You just got to remember trying not to be too aggressive in it, because, again, it has no armor, and there's a lot of things that can one-shot you, especially if you get in a tier 8 game. Just the nature of Himmelsdorf forced me into being a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more in people's faces, but I was playing very cautiously in peeking around corners, getting a shot, and then pulling back around the corner, right? I was never sort of stuck in the open in front of someone going, I'm just going to have to try and out-DPM this person. Only when it was to my advantage. So we're on to the second replay? Third replay. We're on to the tier 7. Maths is hard. We're on to the T34-2GFT, and once again, same crew setup, same equipment setup. We run the rammer, the camo net, and the optics. Optics again to make our vision range just that little bit better so we can spot for ourselves. Camo net, because with the camo net and the crew in there, we get the camo down to like 200 meters of still concealment, which again is utterly filthy and fantastic. And if you get yourselves into a good sniper position, you're going to be able to get some good shots off and stay unspotted. And in terms of armor, yeah, this tank doesn't really have any armor again. It's once you get to the tier 8, you start to have a little bit of armor. But what you do have this time is a slower rate of fire gun compared to the tier 5 and 6. But you have a big honking 122mm gun. So you have 192 penetration on this standard AP round, which is fantastic at tier 7. That's awesome for this tank. I mean, there's a lot of tanks that get a lot more at tier 7, but for a 122mm gun on a Soviet-esque, Chinese-esque TD, 192mm pen, fantastic. 250 heat pen, by the way, as well, which means you're going to pen everything up to tier 9. You're going to face and see if you need to load each round, and you're going to have a great time. And you've got 390 alpha. You have a 50 km/h top speed, again, which is great. It means you're going to be very mobile and get into your position. You just get yourselves into a position like you're seeing here, and you can start pumping shots out. And I say longer reload. I mean, 6.7 second reload for 390 alpha, again, it's pretty great, let's be real. I mean, I know there's tank destroyers like the ISU-122S, or even the SU-152 using the 122mm gun, which are probably reloading, what, 5.4, 5.5 seconds with that 390 alpha, but they're just a little bit derpier. They don't quite have the penetration of this tank, in that they have like 217 APCR pen and only 175 standard pen. But they do have that blistering rate of fire, whereas this obviously has a quick rate of fire, but it has the penetration, it has the filthy camo, and you can definitely do some great harm with this tank. So, we're on Nomini Nom, Nomon Han, and we've gone to this position here. Now, obviously, I could be less aggressive, and I could sit further back and sit where our heavies and medium is at DE7 and wait for them to crest ridge lines. Number one, that's boring. Number two, that also depends on the enemy team pushing. And basically, if they're pushing to the point where you can see the enemy team from that position, well, your team's dead over here. So from this position here, like you can see, we're already getting a little bit of assistance, but we're also being in an aggressive position where I can actually keep just pumping shots out. Because the camo is so great on this tank, I'm not really getting spotted unless I fire. And you saw how close we were to that Carnarvon. And he only spotted me once I fired at the side of his turret. It was like 150, 200 meters away, something like that. And yeah, he couldn't see me. And yeah, that's where the camo rating on this tank is just filthy and great. And obviously your alpha then hurts when you do get those shots in. And so far we're up to 2.8k damage with 897 assistance. We're just aiming the shot into the OI and we shut down the big ass gun on that OI, which is great. Now there's a Panther and it's like, hello Mr. Panther, you're really easy to pen. We slap a big shot through the Panther. What was I saying about no armor? We just bounced the Panther with his 198 penetration. I can't remember what the Panther gets. It might be 198 pen, I can't remember if they buff that or not. And yeah, well, naturally, there's actually only really one place that people will struggle to pen you. And it's kind of the same in the whole way through. And that is the gun mantlet. The gun mantlet can save you in certain situations. If you get lucky and people auto-aim and fire at you and hit you center mass and hit your gun mantlet, they will bounce shots. It's just like a ISU in that way, where it just seems to ricochet miraculous shots and you sit there going, nice! So that's really the only armor on the tank. So we managed to shut down that A43 Black Prince, or was it the Black Prince? I'm not too sure. We managed to shut him down. We're up to 4.1k damage with 1,385 assistance. We're just pushing up into another flanking position. We end up spotting the Barask and the VK. We slap a shot in to finish off the VK. Just being careful to pull back behind this rock because obviously it is a Barask. The Barask hurts. But we pop up and it's like, hey, you're not going to hit us on the move, are you, Mr. Barask? You've got terrible gun. Oh, he did. Yep. The Brass naturally hits us on the move, no problem whatsoever, but we slap a big shot into him, aim the shot in, it's like, come on RNG, thank you, 397 as well, saves the day, shuts that guy down, get a shot into the back of the HMH-51, we get so lucky, bounces off at a gun mantlet again, and where did that shell go? Well, I suppose RNG giveth and RNG taketh, right? We managed to pen him, set him on fire. We got lucky that he really should have killed us. We got lucky he bounced. And then that shot definitely should have hit that guy and it missed somewhere. Now we're looking for a thin shot at the VK3002D. We do actually hit it, but we ricochet off that tank, which is sad. But looking for the heat round in. Oh, he just pulls back as we fire the shell. We've only got a heat left. It's like, please. Oh, that was just cruel. And unfortunately, we can't quite shut down the VK3002D, but we do have a fantastic game in the Tier 7 in a Tier 8 game. Finished with a victory, 5 kills, 5.9k damage nearly, 1,435 assistance, ace tanker, the high caliber, 2,817 base XP. A really great game for this Tier 7 TD. And it really is a nice TD because it slaps. Just beware that the gun can troll you a hell of a lot in that tank, but it does absolutely slap for the tier. And like I said, the reload is really nice, the camo is great, the mobility is great. It just doesn't have any armor, so you've got to be careful with how aggressive you are and where you're being aggressive with it. It's all down to that, really. It's just picking and choosing when you're going to be aggressive. So now we're on to the Tier 8. And this is where the reforges start to happen. Because the Tier 8 tank used to be utterly garbage. It really was utter tripe. It was awful. And then they buffed it. And it became far nicer to play. And it actually became pretty decent. Still not fantastic, to be perfectly honest with you. I still don't think it's that great. But it was more bearable and a little bit better generally to play on the whole. Still struggles a hell of a lot when you're bottom tier. But for the most part, it became more usable. I'd say it didn't really have any armor before the buff, and it really got slapped up all the time, auto-penned every single time. The gun was a little bit annoying, and just everything about the tank was annoying. But then they reforged it. So what did they change? Well, in the reforge, they buffed the stock 122s. They gave the 130mm more ammo, so they went from 25 to 35, which is great, because it used to run out of ammo a lot. They buffed the hull armour on the upper front hull from 200 to 230, upper front hull corner from 180 to 190. They buffed the upper piked hull from 100 to 115. The gun mantlets from 200 to 230, which I think is on the top gun. and they increased the health from 1,000 to 1,200, and also reduced its weight, which increased its power to weight to 14.29. So genuinely, it became slightly better armoured. It can ricochet shots off its upper hull decently now, not all the time. I still wouldn't truly trust it all the time, but it can ricochet shots. You don't run out of rounds. You can take a nice healthy helping of rounds all the time, and it actually became more mobile as well, which was a definite nice change, because it was another one that just felt really sluggish and slow, poor track traverse, that sort of thing, and it was just annoying to play. But the gun slaps, which is nice. So this is where the crew changes and the crew setup changes for the tier 8, 9 and 10. I run the same crew on these tanks. So I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Track Mechanics, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Clutch Braking, Off-Road Driving, and Run and Gun. Run and Gun to make sure that, 10% more accurate on the move when you take those pot shots, stop you blooming out as much when you're on the move, that sort of thing. Steady Aim to be 10% more accurate naturally, because, well, yeah, you always want to be 10% more accurate. Clutch Braking because, again, they don't really have the best track traverse. This is where it starts to get pretty slow on the track traverse, so you want to make it better with that sort of thing. And off-road driving to be able to help you get to your top speed of 42 kilometers an hour. Because like I say, it was fairly sluggish and slow. You do have a 42 kilometer an hour top speed. With the increased power to weight, having better terrain resistances, it helps you get to that top speed and be able to help you get around the around the map as much as you can to put this pretty decent gun into effect. In terms of equipment on this tank, I do run rammer, optics, and a GLD because it's got a 2.7 aim time, which is a bit of a pain. So I wanted to bring that down. You do get that down to about 2.36 second aim time, maybe even better actually once you get a crew in it, which, yeah, makes the gun a lot more bearable. And in terms of this gun, it is fantastic once you get it fully aimed in and slap the shots. And you've got 560 alpha with a 10-second reload, which does feel a little bit slow here and there. But you get 560 alpha with a 271 standard AP pen, which is incredible. And you just don't struggle to pen things. 340 on the heat as well. Again, instantly means you delete everything. Fantastic. And yeah, this gun is basically one of the things that really is a great strength for the tank and made it a lot of fun to play. In terms of camo, you don't really have that much anymore. The further you're going up in this tech tree, you more lose camo for armor, and that's pretty much happens at this tier 8. So you go from the tier 7, which is really stealthy but with no real armor, to the tier 8, which loses the mobility and the stealth for a bigger honking gun and slightly better armor. Well, no, better armor generally. Although the armor on this tank, like I say, can be a bit of a troll and just not work. So we're on this map, which is Halbrom, and we've managed to get 5.2k damage so far with 745 assistance. We pushed down the zero line because we had other people push down the zero line and they didn't get shot. So I was like, well, naturally I can do this. And then a Dragon that's been camping in the base appears out of nowhere, and it's like, god damn it, that's all my hit points that I had for pushing and being a bit more aggressive gone. We couldn't quite see a shot into the 130 SU-130 PM. The Dragon ends up killing himself by jumping off the cliff, and now there's two tanks left. There's two artillery. There's the M4043 over there, and then there's the other artillery, which we expect to be in the position at C0. But I mean, we've done 5.3k damage so far. Oh, there he is! Shut it down! And we snapped the shot in. That's why I like to have stuff like run and gun, because you're just always ready to hit shots on the move. And we finished the game with the victory. 3 kills, 5.3k damage, and 745 assistance. Ace tanker, Confederate, high caliber, sniper, 1819 base XP. Nice game for the WZ-113G FT, tier 8 Chinese tank destroyer. It's pretty decent now, like I say, it's still not the best tier 8 tank destroyer in the universe. It's got a lot of flaws, and even though they buffed the armor and it definitely makes it ricochet a fair bit more now, it's still not that great, and a lot of tanks just wreck you very quickly. And where it's lost its camo rating and its mobility from the former tiers, the armor just isn't enough to make up for it. But the gun does absolutely wreck people if they underestimate it, so you do have that going for you. It's one of those tanks that has to probably play a little bit further back, but is designed to play a little bit further forward, and it doesn't really fulfill that role very well. But it is what it is. Now we're on to the Tier 9, and the Tier 9 is the WZ-113G. And again, this tank received some love. I really liked this tank before the reforge, and again, they gave it some love in the reforge, which makes it a little bit nicer. They increased the max speed from 35 to 38. The terrain resistances got knocked down to 1.1, 1.3, and 2.2 from 1.3, 1.8, and 2.9, which is, by the way, absolutely fantastic. Really massive help to its top speed. They increased the ammo capacity on its 130mm, and they increased the ammo capacity on the 152 from 30 to 35, which is fine. But that's all they really did on this tank. And the top speed buff with the terrain resistances is fantastic, because that's the one thing it really lacked, was a decent top speed, because 35 was just a little bit too limiting. But, yep, 35, 38 now is fine. And if you run what I run, which is a rammer, optics, and a powertrain, again, because this tank does lack that bit of engine power, having the powertrain to give it that little bit extra engine power with the cruise skills like off-road driving to help the terrain resistances even more, and all of that good stuff, you really hit the 39 kilometers an hour really easily. If you put the traction system on, it does struggle to get up to that top speed, in my experience, so just running the powertrain is preferable. And then rammer and optics to be able to make the DPM 10% more better, and yeah, spot better. So we are on Lakeville, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to take my big honking gun with 750 Alpha onto this little valley here. How did that bounce with heat? That's 395 heat pen, by the way, which is utterly filthy. The penetration on this tank is crazy. It's got 290 pen on its AP rounds, 395 heat pen with 750 Alpha, which is beautiful. Like, that Ferdinand has no chance against my standard AP. We'd loaded heat for the 279E because 290 was still going to struggle with that thing, and 395 heat pen was going to help to go through it. And unfortunately, we did pen it once, but we did also bounce. But yeah, this tank does have armor, but you have to be careful when you're angling it, because it has armor on its upper plate, or should I say the upper front section. It has great gun mantlet. You really, when you're shooting and stuff, you want to keep wiggling and hoping you can bait people into shooting your upper plate, and then if they hit the gun mantlet and bounce, as you see, and they're still bouncing off the gun mantlet here. It does have a major weakness, though, and that is it's got some side panels that, if you turn ever so slightly, the side panels are really easy to pen. So you've just got to be very, very wary of that. But so far, in this position, which is keeping people in front of us and giving us the chance of getting over, popping a shot at people and pulling back, which is why I wanted to come here. We've done 3k assistance so far, because we're spotting a lot of them, and 4.2k damage. Unfortunately, we took a big hit from the Ferdinand, who we've managed to bounce off twice with 290 AP, and he ended up hitting us. It puts us down to 16 HP, which is really not helpful. Really sad that I bounced those shots on that Ferdinand, because 290 pen should be really destroying that guy very easily. But it is what it is. Now their team is dying very quickly. They've got 3 tank destroyers, a medium tank, and a heavy. There's the bat chat in front of us, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get one more shot off, and I'm probably going to die here, because this bat chat is going to come over. But actually, fortunately enough for me, the bat chat doesn't bother. He goes in on our medium tank and heavy tank. So what we're going to do is we're going to climb up here and see if we can get another shot in. We've loaded HE, though, because we wanted to try and see if we could pen the bat chat. But hello, Waffle. Oh, he lost all the hit points. He lost the hit points, so this 1,100 hit didn't happen. But it is what it is. We still managed to pen it, and we finished with the epic victory. 2 kills, 5k damage, 3.1k assistance, ace tanker, 1,732 base XP. A really nice game for the 111 GFT. It does actually, if you notice the crew XP and the fact that this crew isn't fully leveled up, I do actually have a tank crew in it that was the original crew that was in it, that's not fully trained. And it's actually 8 skills. It just doesn't have the 9th skill, which I think was the off-road driving. I think I hadn't trained that in, pretty much. But it's most of that same crew anyway. But again, I run that same crew that you saw for the tier 8 and 9 on this WZ-113 GFT, which is the pinnacle of the line. So, the WZ-113G FT, the Tier 10 Chinese tank destroyer. Well, this is a tank that I didn't enjoy for a long time, because I really enjoyed the Tier 9 and thought the Tier 9 was solid. And then you got the Tier 10 and it just felt this disappointing Tier 10 version of it, because it pretty much felt like the Tier 9, but you just ended up at Tier 10, so you couldn't see like Tier 7s and you didn't see Tier 8s as much, and you were pretty much always, for the most part, against Tier 9s and 10s. And it was just like, oh, this is just disappointing. But then they reforged it, and the reforge for this tank made it a lot nicer, and I think genuinely better for the whole. I still don't think it's the most competitive, and I still think it gets absolutely pooped on compared to something like the 268, for example, which is really, you're looking at possible direct competitor in the way it is. And yeah, so what did they reforge in terms of the WZ-113 GFT? Well, they changed the engine power from 650 to 750, which gave it a better power to weight of up to 13.64. They increased the reload on the 152mm gun, so they nerfed the reload from 17 seconds to 19.5 seconds. But they increased the damage to 850, which was sort of not really a loss to any of its DPM. It just basically got higher alpha, which brings it in line with a lot of the other 850 alpha TDs, like the 268, which is nice, and it means you roll for a lot quite often, which is decent. They buffed the frontal armour from 230 to 250, which is really good, and the upper sloped hull armour from 130 to 100, well, from 100 to 130, sorry. So the armour on this tank actually became decent, and take the word decent as what it is. It's not brilliant, it still does get penned, and it does have the same problem as the Tier 9, where if you angle ever so slightly, there's little side panels on the side become really weak and easy to pen. You really have to be careful of that. But again, what you want to try and do is bait people to hit your gun mantlet, because they're always going to bounce on the gun mantlet, because that is the thickest part of the armour. The upper plate will bounce shots now, whereas it used to get penned all the time. Will bounce shots now, but again, if people are firing premium at Tier 10, they probably still will go straight through it, and it's really frustrating in that way. In terms of equipment, I run rammer, optics, and a GLD again. It has a 38 km/h top speed, which is the same as the Tier 9. And you might think, well, why don't you run a powertrain the same as the Tier 9 if it's basically the same? Well, because realistically, it hits the 38 km/h really easily, and I didn't really feel like it needed that extra 1 km/h top speed. I mean, you probably could actually fit a traction system on it and hit its top speed, to be perfectly honest with you, with the off-road driving and all that sort of stuff. So if you do feel like you want to be quicker, you can probably get up to, I think it's 41 km/h with the traction system, which naturally gives you better track traverse as well. It's up to you. But I run the GLD because with the way I play this tank and be a little bit more aggressive, I just wanted the aim time to be lower. And with the crew and a GLD in it, I get the aim time down to a 2-second aim time, which is absolutely delightful. And you have 3.5k DPM in this tank, by the way, with the setup as well, which is very, very, very good. And naturally, like I say, I just wanted to make sure that I can get this gun on target as quick as possible. Because the key strength of the tank is how hard this gun slaps. And if you can slap the shells in, you're going to have a good time. So again, you've got 290 pen on the AP and 395 pen on the heat rounds, which is ludicrous. You're going to pen everything you're going to face. And you can have a good time with how hard you hit people. So, we're on this game on Dragon Ridge, a map that I really detest. I just don't enjoy Dragon's Ridge whatsoever, because most of the time it ends up being that their team camps exactly where that bat chat just got done in. And if you attack down the 8-9 line, for example, you find that there's tons of people set at K7, or they're just camping on the corner at G7-8. And it's just not generally a fun map for me to play. I don't know, I just don't enjoy Dragon's Ridge myself from either spawn. So, on Dragon's Ridge, we did take a different position. So we went straight to E3, and that's because I expected, like I say, their team to be camping up there, which they've got a couple of people up there. And when our team was pushing that way, I was thinking, okay, I can get some shots at people as they get spotted crossing that way, which is what happened with the Basante and the other tank that I was firing at. I think it was a Conqueror, maybe. and we caught them out and got shots into them. So far, we're up to 2k damage with 352 assistance, and we are closing the distance on these guys because they're in a position where they're kind of hugging the corner, hull down. Back where I was, they were out of render range, so I couldn't actually get a shot at them anymore, so I have to close distance to be able to get a shot. There is an AMX-65T below, the Conqueror and the T-30 above, which is kind of dangerous because obviously, naturally, they're both very good hull-down tanks. So, we decided to go after the 65T, and we slap a big shell into that guy for 770. Just waiting for the reload to go in, and like I say, for 850 Alpha, this tank doesn't feel like it reloads for all that long. And you can just two-shot tier 8 tanks like that. Unfortunately, I think it was the Conqueror put a shot into us, but it actually could have been the T-30. And yeah, that Conqueror was stock, so it was actually the T-30. So I don't think he has the big gun. And I don't think I realised it at the time, so I'm being far more careful than I have to be. Because if he doesn't have the big gun, well, he has better DPM, but if he hits me for 400, which is exactly what happens, I just pull up and go, well, hey, sir, how's it going? 861. Big gun, I was expecting to slap me for like 750, and obviously that's a lot of hit points to lose. It's not good. But with the 400 Alpha gun, I could take a hit and slap him. And unfortunately, he did catch a shot into us, but that gave me the information I needed to be able to pull over and just go, okay, goodbye, sir, and delete. We got a nice shot into the bar, fortunately, or the Bayer. Unfortunately, someone else got a shot into him, or fortunately enough, and that meant that we could shut him down. And then, luckily, that Jagdpanzer couldn't quite see us to get a shot. That was one of them moments where you go, oh, he could hit me there, and I don't want that. Aiming down on the i7 upper plate, 290 pen. Aiming down at that guy's lower plate. I expected that to go through, and to be perfectly honest, with the Armour axe in that thing, it through its upper plate. I thought I was going to Armour rack it. But, unfortunately, we ended up ricocheting off his pike nose. But he gave us a lovely shot through his side, so we'd slapped the big shot through his side and puts us up to 5.5k damage. Now I'm thinking of teasing to see where this Jagdpanzer is, because the heavy tank's down there. I kind of want to get it down to get a shot at him. Here we go. The Jagdpanzer has moved and stopped looking at us. We slap a shot into him for 930 something damage. That is dirty, dirty RNG, which is really nice. We're up to 6.5k damage. The Jagdpanzer's trying to turn around to get a shot at us, and it's like, you know what? I have health, and I can finish you off. I knew I could take a hit from the Jagdpanzer, so I'd slap the shot through his lower plate. I knew again I had the pen to go through him. Fortunately though, and this is where that guy would have automatically penned us before the update, but being higher up and having the upgrade to our armour, we managed to bounce him, which is nice. We're looking for a shot at this E100, really awkwardly placed because of this dead Jagdpanzer, but we just managed to get a shot straight through his engine deck, and we shut down the E100. And we finished the game with a great total for the WZ-113G FT. We finished with 6 kills, 7.2k damage, 580 assistance, 2.3k blocked, ace tanker, top gun, high caliber, 1647 base XP. A really nice game for the tier 10 Chinese tank destroyer. The line that's been reforged. As a tier 10, I don't think it's that bad anymore, but at the same time, I still don't think it's as competitive as a lot of other tanks at the tier. But you can certainly have a bit more fun in it now than the uselessness it was before. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Great success!